Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah, my dear learners. Hope that you are very fine by the grace of Almighty Allah and watched my previous classes smartly and with the reference of my previous classes. Today's class have been present in front of you with our new arrangement, new class named Simple to Complex to Compound with the reference of my previous classes, my dear learners. So, my dear learners, now let's take a look at the board and try to understand. My dear learners, in my previous classes about simple to complex to compound, already I have finished rule number one, rule number two, rule number three, and with the reference of my previous classes, today's class I have been present in front of with a new arrangement, new class named rule number four. Because of is equal to since of the gas equal to and so equal to and so my dear learners now let's take a look at the board and try to understand. My dear learners, before starting today's class, I want to review my previous classes. Rule number was one was that my dear learners, rule number one was that by plus gerund is equal to if is equal to and okay, my dear learners, in my role number class, in my role number one, you are told that my dear learners, there is a great connection among these three items, by plus gerund, if you and but it's a remarkable thing that by plus gerund is used in a simple sentence, if you is used a complex sentence, and is used in a compound sentence. My dear learners, in rule number one, you are told that, my dear learners, there is a great connection among without plus gerund is equal to if you don't and or okay, my dear listeners, in rule number three, rule number three, which hold that my dear listeners, present participle equal to and equal to and okay, my dear learners, and you are told that, my dear learners, by plus zero and with the plus zero and present participle is used in a simple sentence, if you don't join is used in a complex sentence, and or and are used in a compound sentence, of that you have understood clearly. And with the reference of my previous classes, today's class I have been present in front of you. The relationship among them is that, my dear learners, because of is equal to since obligas is equal to and so. There is a great connection among three items, but you have to mind that because of is used in a simple sentence, since oblique s is used in a complex sentence, and so is used in a compound sentence. My dear learners, with the reference of these connections, I have written an example of simple sentence which is started because of suppose you are told to change this category of sentence into a complex sentence. So, what strategy should you take to change such kinds of statement into a complex sentence? My dear listeners, hope that you will be able to reply my questions, but I want to share my experience with you. My dear listeners, you'll have to mind that when simple sentence is started or next to because of, you'll have to mind that, my dear listeners, there is a principal clause only. Sometimes we can see that phrase is present or not, my dear learners, but at the time of changing such kinds of simple sentence into a complex sentence, you'll have to mind that you should not change the principal clause. You should not change the principal clause. Only you'll have to change the phrase into a subordinate clause, because at the time of making you about the definition of a complex sentence. You are told that, my dear learners, complex sentence is a type of sentence so which has subordinate clause and a principal clause. But sure, it's a remarkable thing that a principal clause already has, and now you will have to change the phrase into a subordinate clause. Then that's enough. So, my dear learners, try to change this sentence into a complex sentence and try to change the phrase into a subordinate clause. Now, before changing the phrase into subordinate clause, you'll have to mind that there are many preconditions of forming a subordinate clause. At first, you'll have to use subordinating conjunction, then subject, then finite verb, then extension. Okay, maybe that's but in this sketch already have given the subordinating conjunction. Maybe learners, when a simple sentence is started or mixed with because of, in this case you'll have to use the subordinating conjunction since oblique as of that you have understood clearly. Now, bring a subject. Of course, you know that, my dear learners, there is no any subject in a phrase, but you have to bring the subject from the principal clause. From the principal clause, subject of the principal clause, of course, I. So, my dear learners, subject you have understood clearly. Now, write the finite verb. Of course, a non-finite verb is used in a phrase, and you have to change substance of non-finite verb into a finite verb. In this phrase, being is used as a non-finite verb. But if we delete ing, then this verb must change into a finite verb. So, my dear learners, of course, we know that be means am, is, are, was, or, and these five categories of auxiliary verb has two form. That means am is your v1 form and was your v2 form. Now my children are still have to use the form according to the form of verb of principal clause. Would of course the v2 form, and in this case you'll have to use v2 form was or. So my dear learners, write was, then extension of this phrase ill, comma, then write principal clause I could not go to school. Of that you have understood clearly, and already this sentence had changed into a complex sentence because this sentence has a principal clause and a subordinate clause. Of that you have understood clearly, my children. Now suppose you are told to change this sentence into a compound sentence, into a compound sentence. So in this case, what strategy should you try, my children? Of course, you know that there are two principal clauses in a compound sentence mixed with the coordinating conjunction. Coordinating conjunction, and in this case, you'll have to bring coordinating conjunction and so middle of the statement. And so in this case, especially when a simple sentence is started or mixed, and because of. So, my dear learners, principal clause. There is no change of principal clause, but in this case, especially at the time of changing such categories of simple sentence into a compound sentence, you'll have to change the phrase into a principal clause. Now, my dear learners, what are the precondition of a principal clause? Of course, you know that, my dear learners, the main precondition of a principal clause is that at first you'll have to subject. But I'll have to mind that, my dear learner, there is no any subject in a phrase, so you'll have to bring the subject from the principal clause. So the subject of principal clause I, right? I, and then write finite verb. Of course, you know that, my dear learners, and there is no any finite verb in a phrase, but there is at least a non-finite verb. Here, non-finite verb, of course, being, my dear learners, if we delete ing form from being, such kinds of situation in this case, be must be changed into a finite verb. And be means what? Of course, you know that be means am, is, are, was, where these five categories of auxiliary verb are called B verb, and these five categories auxiliary verb has two forms: V1 amateur and V2 was where. Again, Medulliners, you will have to use according to the verb of principal clause. Could look at the board and try to understand. Could is of course a V2 form, and in this case you will have to use according to subject was only. Alright, so write was, and extension of this phrase is. Okay, my dear learners, now write answer middle of the statement instead of comma. And so then write the principal clause. I could not go to school. Okay, maybe let's take a look at the board and try to understand. Already this sentence has changed into a compound sentence because at the time of making you understand about the definition of a compound sentence, I found that, my dear learners, a compound sentence is a type of sentence which has two principal clause mixed with and so, but or either daughter or either daughter or as well as etc. So, my dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. Medillions, I'm trying to write another example to make you understand. In the meeting, Medillions try to understand, try to recognize what categories of sentence is this. Medillions, sorry, and so. This sentence has two principal clauses mixed with coordinating conjunction. So, Medillions, we can consider this sentence, of course, compound sentence. And you are asked to change sequence of statement into a complex sentence. Complex sentence. So, my dear learners, according to my mind, it's very easy to change sequence of statement, especially mixed with the and so, and a compound sentence into a complex sentence. In this case, my dear learners, I want to suggest you that, my dear learners, at first you'll have to use since obliquus. Since obliquus. Then write first principal clause. Then or ill, and middle of the statement deleting answer you'll have to use the notes of comma, and then write the second principal clause. Then don't attend the meeting. Okay, learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. So this sentence must be changed into a complex sentence. How about that you have understood clearly? Now, dear learners, now you are told to change a sense of statement into a simple sentence. So, my dear learners, in this case, what strategy should you check? My dear learners, in this case, you'll have to mind that, my dear learners, second principle clause, there is no any change of second principle clause, but you'll have to first principle clause into a phrase, especially at the time of changing substance of statement into a simple sentence. So, in this case, you'll have to use or write because of at first beginning of the first principle clause, because of, then possessive form of subject or first principle clause. They are then use non-finite verb. Non-finite verb of am, is, or was, are of course being. Then extension of this principal clause. Then use comma middle of the statement deleting and so, and then write the second principal clause. Then couldn't attend the meeting. Hope that you have understood clearly. My dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. So this sentence must be changed into a simple sentence because this sentence has only a principal clause and has a phrase. Hope that you have understood clearly. My dear learners, I don't want to lengthen today's class, so but I want to share some experience with you, my dear learners. So of course, you know that I'm a new teacher or new teacher in YouTube channel, and I'm trying to use English conversation at the time of making any video classes. So, my dear learners, if you notice any faults or mistakes in the middle of my video class, please excuse me and free to all my teachers so that I can help you in this way through my video classes. So, my dear learners, now what today come to you again with a new advertisement, the new class. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.